So, today we're gonna talk about neuroscience and the brain and brain waves and alpha brain waves and whatever. Might sound a bit woo-woo, might sound a bit, yeah, maybe not that scientific. You might have heard of, brain waves and so forth. But yeah, this is an article by Christopher Bergland, The Athlete's Way, which might be a company, which might be a book that he has written. I don't actually know. But the article is all about alpha-powered brainwaves may unclamp freely moving thoughts. Unclamping the prefrontal cortex, says, executive functions may boost dynamic thoughts. And yeah, this is what it's going to be about. The word alpha-powered brain waves, and especially waves, struck me a bit, and this is the reason why I'm willing to go through this article and read this article. I don't actually have to record today, so I'm probably going to make it a bit shorter than normally. On the other hand, I just want to, and I need to read something today. Yeah, I by the way also thought about making podcast episodes or just a separate podcast in my mother tongue, which is German. But I don't know what this is going to be like, I've been doing it for, quite 3 years. This is the third year in English, and it definitely is a strange thing to talk about certain things in German. They also don't feel that well, and I just like English on one hand as well. Anyway, unclamp, in a word, your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free. The service it will do you will be twice as good. Just as a bicycle chain may be too tight, so may one's carefulness and consciousness be so tense as to hinder the running of one's mind. William James, The Gospel of Relaxation, 1911. For the past 2 decades, I've been on the lookout for neuroscience-based research that would corroborate my late father's hunch that unclamping, and this is a quote, the intellectual machinery of the prefrontal cortex is key to creative thinking. My dad, Richard Bergland, who lived from 1932 to 2007, spent much of his career as a neurosurgeon and neuroscientist at Harvard Medical School. He was profoundly influenced by the writings of William James, who would be affiliated with HMS generations before. James' Gospel of Relaxation was like a second Bible to my father. When I was a young tennis player in the 1970s, my dad coached me to avoid choking by quoting Arthur Ashe, or Ashe, whatever. There is a syndrome in sports called paralysis by analysis, and William James, unclamp your intellectual machinery. He pounded these maxims into my head along with his catchphrase, stop overthinking, let it go. In an Obi-Wan Kenobi way, Dad's advice to let go by not relying too much on the frontal lobes always reminded me of Luke Skywalker using his intuition, not intellect, to obliterate the Death Star. Which, by the way, when it comes to sports, I also think in that way. Sports besides working out. When it is about working out, then I don't know. I mean, there's so much information, there's so much research, and there's so much, also knowledge that I'm having that it kind of makes things maybe a bit too difficult. But on the other hand, it is like, well, I'm working out in a way that, people wouldn't necessarily suggest. Which is really high volume, mega sets and whatnot. Well, is it a mega set? I don't know. But it's just working for me, as it is with nutrition for some people. I mean, I don't know. We all work differently. Our bodies all work differently. And, stress also plays into it. And, yeah. The whole life is made out of so many different variables that also change up in terms of, sometimes this is a viable and relevant variable, and on some other day where you might not be a bit sick, where you might not be stressed out, where you might not be whatever, some other variables play a way bigger role than some other ones. So yeah, life is one variable quite. So my father believed that too much prefrontal cortex-based cerebral thinking inhibited flow states. He speculated that if athletes relied more on the implicit muscle memory of the cerebellum and less on the executive functions of the frontal cortex, they'd be able to get and stay in the quote-unquote zone. This philosophy became the foundation of The Athlete's Way, which might be a book again and or company, I don't actually know. Surprisingly, when I retired from sports and became a writer in the early 2000s, I realized that unclamping the intellectual machinery of my prefrontal cortex also promoted aimless mind wandering in ways that helped me connect the dots of seemingly unrelated ideas and often led to spontaneous aha or heureka moments. See superfluidity and the synergy of your four brain hemispheres. Well, dynamic thoughts and artistic cognition may benefit from unclamping the frontal cortex. In recent days, 2 new papers were published that help to advance our understanding of how alpha-powered mind wandering facilitates dynamic thoughts and the neural underpinnings of cognition. The first paper, Distinct Electrophysiological Signatures of Task, Unrelated and Dynamic Thoughts, found that enhanced frontal cortex alpha power was observed during freely moving thoughts compared with non-freely moving thoughts, and that alpha-powered variability was increased for task unrelated, freely moving and unconstrained thoughts. This research was led by a team from UC Berkeley's Night Lab. Their findings, Cam et al. 2021, were recently published online ahead of print in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Lead author Julia Cam, along with senior author Robert Knight and their co-authors, used electroencephalogram, which is an EEG, to monitor brain activity, while also tracking the flow of each study participant's internal thought processes. The researchers identified 4 types of thoughts: automatically constrained, deliberately constrained, freely moving, and task unrelated. When study participants reported having thoughts that moved freely from topic to topic, they showed increased alpha wave activity in the brain's frontal cortex, a pattern linked to the generation of creative ideas, the author explained in a January 18th, 2021 news release. The researchers also speculated that allowing our internal thoughts to move freely and creatively are a necessary function of the brain and can promote relaxation and also exploration, which might kind of also be one of the reasons why meditation works. You don't necessarily think about anything and you just notice that there are thoughts, and they can jump around relatively freely because you're basically forcing yourself to not really interact with them, and so they can just jump and do their thing. For the first time, we have neurophysiological evidence that distinguishes different patterns of internal thought, allowing us to understand the varieties of thought central to human cognition and to compare between healthy and disordered thinking. Robert Knight, psychology and neuroscience professor and founder of the Knight Lab, added, another co-author of the study, Zachary Irvin, who is currently an assistant professor of philosophy at the University of Virginia, created a mind-wandering philosophical theory as a postdoctoral scholar at UC Berkeley. This theory shaped the methodology of Cam et al.'s recent study. If you focus all the time on your goals, you can miss important information. And so, having a free association thought process that randomly generates memories and imaginative experiences can lead you to new ideas and insights. Irving said in the news release. The ability to detect our thought patterns through brain activity is an important step toward generating potential strategies for regulating how our thoughts unfold over time. A strategy useful for healthy and disordered minds alike, Cam concluded. The second paper, How Do Competitive Neurocognitive Processes Contribute to Artistic Cognition? The Andras Effect, Schipper, Janacek, and Nemeth 2020, was recently published online by the MIT Press journal Leonardo. This review of previous studies by a team of brain scientists from the Lyon Neuroscience Research Center in France investigated the neural underpinnings and thinking processes behind quote-unquote artistic cognition. And there is a quote apparently. In effect, artist creation requires a combination of a number of different cognitive processes: attention, planning, executive functions, cognitive flexibility, memory, recollection, implicit knowledge, etc., that are carried out by different interactive neural circuits. The authors explain these defined separate cognitive functions have been well studied within the scientific community, such that inferences regarding how these might apply to creativity can now be made. In January the 18th, 2021 feature article for Medical Express by Ingrid Fadeli, the authors describe a new hypothetical framework they call the Andras Effect, which posits that neural processes related to intuition and the human ability to understand or examine something instinctively without consciously reasoning about it are key to artistic cognition. A co-author of the study, Desso Nemeth, told Medical Express, "Our paper is a theoretical investigation in which we connected the results of past empirical studies in cognitive neuroscience, particularly those focusing on artistic cognition. Ultimately, we sought to explain the role of implicit learning processes in artistic cognition, or how the competition between different brain networks can lead to a more effective artistic intuition. When it comes to optimizing artistic cognition, Schipper, Janacek, and Nemeth's Andras Effect theoretical model suggests that less is more, as Fadeli explains. More specifically, they suggested that quote-unquote weaker prefrontal circuits, which are related to executive functions, for example, cognitive processes that allow humans to control their behavior and focus on the task at hand, such as working memory and flexible thinking, can actually lead to more effective artistic cognition. Taken together, the latest research from 2021 on artistic cognition and dynamic thoughts reaffirms what William James recommended over a century ago when he wrote The Gospel of Relaxation. If you want to increase free-flowing thoughts and artistic intuition, it seems well advised to unclamp, in a word, your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free and do its thing. However you want to achieve that, maybe by mind mapping, maybe by creative writing, maybe by just doing something. I mean, of course, we are, probably always gonna, we are always gonna restrict ourselves from free thinking, especially when we are trying to think freely, which is like, okay, don't think about an elephant, and yeah, you're gonna think about an elephant, which is kind of inevitable. But, well, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say how you can think freely, I just think that we are most often doing so when we don't think about thinking, when it's just, when we don't think about thinking. Very interesting article by the psychologytoday.com site, as always. They're having amazing articles by amazing people and very interesting. I can validate. There are references, but I just can't validate them right now, whether kind of this is the truth or whatnot, or how the study looked like, whether this is a viable one or not. But I'm just putting this out as mere information, I would say. to maybe for some people look into it and be like, well, what can I do with this information? Or, there's going to be somebody that is interested in that. But the question then is, alpha-powered brainwaves, if there is more alpha waves in the prefrontal cortex, there is such thing called binaural beats, alpha brain waves. Brain waves. What about stimulation? How and why to boost your alpha brain waves? Let's see, there's actually also a psychologytoday.com article. Delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves. Your brain produces alpha waves, which are from 8 to 12 hertz, when you are awake but relaxed and not processing much information, such as first things in the morning, just before you go to bed or sleep, when you're daydreaming or practicing meditation. Some scientists also claim aerobic exercise to help create alpha waves, which, by the way, I think it is right. When I'm working out, I'm, probably in one of the most meditative states I can be. I don't think about much. And it's the same for sports in general, for me at least. Whatever sport that I'm doing, I just don't think about anything, which might actually be also one of the reasons why I love doing sports so much. Might also be, since we've been also talking about flow states, if you're playing video games, which is a very, very, very float state introducing activity one can do. And so you might also be in such a state when you're playing video games. You just, well, it's also quite meditative. Anyways, in studies, alpha activity has been linked to a reduction in stress, anxiety, discomfort, and pain. It may also help with memory. Then there is theta, delta, and beta waves. Alpha relaxers learn to meditate, close your eyes, take a deep breath, have a relaxing bath, try some yoga. Well, yeah, nothing that. Alpha brainwaves, what are they and why are they? alphastim.com. Sounds very steroid-like. But anyway, let's just have a look. I don't know if I'm going to link all these websites there. I'm definitely going to link the original article that we went through in the description and or show notes. But yeah. Better the role of alpha waves. How and why AlphaStim works is an FDA cleared medical device that works with the electricity in your body to help you feel better. I mean, sounds reasonable, to be honest. But, alpha brainwave music? I do have a feeling that classical music might actually be also good for certain things compared to other types of music. And I think music in general is probably, since it is such an old practice, that, I don't know, like it must do something to us. As for example, Arthur Schopenhauer said that, he's a philosopher, that music, and I think art as well, probably fine arts, is, what did he say? Like one of the only things that kind of help the human being. I don't know the right wording now, but apparently this is kind of the only way we can escape, maybe. He was definitely talking about it. Very interesting. Anyway, brain waves, they're also called Berger waves, after Hans Berger or Berger, whatever. How do alpha waves do to your body? What are alpha waves music? Depending on the frequency, alpha waves can be categorized as delta, theta, alpha. Or waves can be. Okay, I'm sorry. The impact on music of the bioelectrical oscillation of the brain. There is actually a study there, apparently. And I'm gonna quickly, introduction. No, general neurophysiology of listening to music. I mean, there must be a lot of studies on there. disorders of consciousness, psychiatry, chronic conditions, rehabilitation, conclusions. To sum up, the impact of music on bioelectrical activity of the brain is being investigated in various contexts. Starting from a healthy population, studies also seek to determine the effect of music in such conditions as disorders of consciousness, psychiatric diseases, and chronic conditions, as well as to further explore the role of music for rehabilitation purpose. Yes. A brainwave spectral analysis is a powerful tool for those studies as it provides deep and objective insights into the effects of music on the brain. Further investigations in this field would not only deepen our knowledge of musical processing, but would also open new perspectives for the use of music in clinical and therapeutical practices. Well, yeah, this is very, we might have found something, but it's way too less. Is there something more? Anyway, well, yeah, I'm gonna end the episode there. So maybe you're gonna hit up some brainwave videos here on YouTube. You're probably gonna find something. Maybe they work, and even if they only work because of some placebo effect, would also be worth it. But yeah, gonna see you the next time. Bye bye.